This is an animated supplement for Chapter 15, The Wheatfield, from the book, Our Fathers at Gettysburg, by Kunkel. The Battle of the Wheatfield more or less starts when Anderson's Confederate brigade advances through Rose Woods and clashes with Detroit-Brand's brigade, which is guarding the wooded Stony Hill area as well as the Wheatfield. Detroit-Brand's regiments are well positioned on the high ground, on Stony Hill, and in Rose Woods, except for the 17th Maine out in the open. But this unit has a handy stone wall to fight behind, and it's also well supported by the 6 cannons of Winslow's battery, right behind them in the Wheatfield. Anderson is stopped, but he falls back, regroups, and attacks again. Meanwhile, Federal Division Commander Barnes arrives with 2 brigades, Tilton's and Schweitzer's, which he orders into the wooded Stony Hill area to reinforce Detroit-Brand. Particularly with the new Federal reinforcements, Anderson is making no progress, and he calls for reinforcements, which comes in the form of Kershaw's Confederate brigade. Because he has no protection on his left flank, Kershaw is forced to split his 6 regiments. 3 turn north and attack the Federal artillery lined up at the Peach Orchard. The Peach Orchard battle will be discussed in the next chapter. Kershaw also sends 2 of his regiments, the 3rd and 7th South Carolina, to attack Stony Hill. The 15th South Carolina is kept in reserve. So now Confederates are striking the Stony Hill Wheatfield area from both the south and from the west, and the battle increases in fury. So far, although the fighting is fierce in the Stony Hill area, the Federals seem to be holding their own. But then Federal Division Commander Barnes becomes concerned about the gap between his line and the Federal artillery in the Peach Orchard area, and he abruptly orders both of his brigades, Tilton's and Schweitzer's, to fall back to the Wheatfield Road area, thus abandoning Stony Hill and allowing Kershaw to take control of that high ground, which dominates the Wheatfield. This in turn forces Detroit-Brand to also withdraw. So now the Confederates have taken the entire position, but only for the moment. Just as things are looking their grimmest for the Federals, the pendulum swings back in the Federals' favor when Division Commander Caldwell comes marching down Wheatfield Road with 4 fresh Federal brigades. And now the battle, which up until now had mostly been on the periphery of the Wheatfield, will be centered in the Wheatfield itself. Colonel Cross's brigade is in the lead, and it advances into the Wheatfield to confront Anderson, whose men are now protected behind the same stone wall that the 17th Maine had been using. Next comes Zook's brigade, which attacks Kershaw's units holding the Stony Hill within Rose Woods. Then comes Kelly's small Irish brigade, which swings into the Wheatfield and strikes Kershaw's right flank on the Stony Hill. Now under attack from both the north and the east, Kershaw is driven out of Rose Woods, back toward the Peach Orchard. But then Confederate Sims' brigade comes to Kershaw's rescue and halts Kelly's advance. So Caldwell now orders in his reserve brigade, Brooks, and Brooks advances across the Wheatfield, driving everything before him, and pushes both Sims and Anderson's completely out of Rose Woods. Once again, the Federals appear to have completely won the battle, at least here in the Wheatfield. But just at this time, the Federal position at the Peach Orchard collapses, freeing up Wolford's Confederate brigade to advance toward the Wheatfield. Wolford's fresh troops march down Wheatfield Road like a steamroller, driving everything before it, and re-energizing the rest of the Confederate troops, who now attack all along the line. Brooks is forced to retreat, as is Kelly and Zook. Trying to stem the rout, Barnes sends back in Schweitzer's brigade. But Schweitzer's troops no sooner get back into the Wheatfield than the other Federals come fleeing all around them and through their ranks, while being struck by the Confederates from Stony Hill as well as from the south. Schweitzer is soon forced to retreat himself. About the time Schweitzer is preparing to retreat, 2 more Federal brigades arrive on the east end of the field. These are regular Federal troops under the commands of Colonel Burbank and Day. Burbank, in the lead, swings his line into the Wheatfield, attempting to connect with Schweitzer. But by the time he does, Schweitzer's retreating, and Burbank finds himself under attack from the south, west, and north. Both Federal brigades retreat, taking heavy losses in the process, and the Confederates now take control of the Wheatfield. For much more on this battle, including descriptions by the soldiers involved, as well as photos, illustrations, and Google links to the actual battlefield locations, please refer to this book.